Hi, hope you're well. This will probably be a briefish video. I'm just going to talk about some movies I've gotten recently. I've picked up a few ditties in the past week or so, and I feel like talking right now. I have some downtime after a very eventful weekend and a very eventful day today. I'm settling down and I'm going to do a video. Here I am. Hope you're well. Thanks for coming by, as always. This is a very Roger Corman filled video. I'm just going to get right into the first movie I've picked up in the past week. I've picked up three movies I'm going to talk about. This one, Galaxy of Terror. Look at that cover. The cover's much better than the actual movie. Those of you who buy these types of movies, don't you love this about physical media when it comes to movies? Like, they just sell the shit out of it with these covers. These are fantastic covers. Always come with great artwork, and you get the slipcase. They really package this stuff in a beautiful way. And then you watch the movie and you're like, oh. The movie's kind of goofy and dopey and a little bit stupid, but these kinds of movies are fun. These types of movies, you just you sit down and you let them take you away into another world, a very kind of dumb world, but being in that dumb world can be very fun. And Galaxy of Terror is no different. This is a Roger Corman produced little ditty. In fact, did he direct this? I forget. I don't think he did. No, he didn't. I saw this years ago. I don't know. I saw this back in the mid 80s, I think, when I don't know, I was probably 10 years old. Way too young to watch this. And this is one of those movies, it's got beasts and monsters and ladies, scantily clad ladies, sex, some boobies, those things that Roger Corman was good at. And I don't know a lot about the background of this movie. In fact, I've never owned the physical copy of this, but we get a commentary with the cast and crew, which is great. I've never heard that, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Let's see, Tales from the Lumberyard, The Making of Galaxy of Terror. I haven't jumped into any of those yet, so I'm looking forward to it. Are any of you familiar with any of these bonus features? I've seen the movie, I just haven't looked into the bonus features. I hope it's worth it. I'm sure it will be. These types of movies always have a story. These sci-fi horror movies made in the 70s and early 80s, they would do recuts and re-edits. Like, they'd film the movie and then, after hours, they'd bring in this second unit crew who would film all these sex scenes and these really deviant, fucked up, violent scenes, and they'd cram them into the movie, and then the whole vibe would change. Much to the chagrin of the actors and the original directors, who a lot of times didn't even know about it. And that's leading me into my next movie here. But this movie's just fun. It's dumb. It's goofy. But again, scantily clad ladies. Roger Corman. Goofery. Monsters. Monsters doing naughty things to women. Listen, you can be as offended as you want to be when it comes to stuff like that. There is a huge audience for this type of stuff. There still is. There was then, and there still is. They don't make movies like this anymore. Why do you think people line up to buy this shit? Because they're not getting it anywhere else. It's just not PC to make these types of movies anymore, even though there's a huge audience for it, and we're all still here. And there are younger generations that want to see this shit too, but they just don't make this stuff anymore. Movies have to fit a certain agenda nowadays in order to get released. I mean, forget released. They have to fit the agendas to even get made, or even be financed, or even be realized, or even be thought up. I mean, you wouldn't even think up shit like this anymore because no one's going to pay to have the movie made. Kind of a bummer. Again, you can be as offended as you want to be, but human beings will always want to see shit like this. Monsters molesting women and big, strong, manly men protecting those women. Yeah. It's called being a human being. Even women love these movies. I hate to break it to you snowflakes out there. Yeah, it's true. So I look forward to watching this movie. Very much so. Now, this is a movie I'm very excited to have. Humanoids from the Deep. Yes. This is a proper fucked up movie. This does have a story behind it, and I'm familiar with the story somewhat. This has been released before. This is the first time it's been on 4K here in the United States. Maybe it's been 4K somewhere else. I don't know. But this is the first 4K released here in the US, where it should be. This is an American movie. It needs to have a 4K release here in America. And we have it now. Yay! Thank you, Shout. Shout Factory. By the way, both of these are on Shout Factory, so you don't get a digital code, unfortunately. You just don't get digital codes with these third-party boutique sellers like Shout and Criterion. You don't get them. If you're curious, you only get those when the studios themselves put out a piece of physical media. Then you get the digital copy. But here, when it's a third-party company, you just don't get them. But that's okay. That's why these physical copies exist. It does make you wonder, though. Like, you can't give us a digital copy? Just give it up. What's the problem? I don't know. It does make you wonder. I think that the studios that own these, they want to hold the rights for themselves for when the day comes, they want to release their own version. They can then put a digital copy in there, and then you can go to their website and you can get inundated by all their spam because you have to include your email address to redeem the digital codes. It's just a whole thing. We all know it. It's boring. It's lame. It is what it is. Humanoids from the Deep. This is a fun movie, man. And this has a history. I forget her name. The director was Barbara Peters, right? Barbara Peters? I want to say Barbara Peters. Yeah. A woman directed this movie, and Roger Corman watched it. I might get some of these details wrong, you dorks and nerds out there. I don't want to fucking hear it if I get one tiny infinitesimal little detail incorrect. Just calm down. It happens from time to time on my channel. She directed the movie she wanted, and then Roger Corman watched it. This movie came out in 1980, by the way. A really good time for movies. It was right when Hollywood was starting to change. The Heaven's Gate debacle happened that year. And so movies in the 70s were really nasty, and they could be really violent and sexual and deviant in that way, but it was just starting to change. Heaven's Gate changed all that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look that up. I'm not going to get into the whole Heaven's Gate thing, but it changed the whole industry, basically. And it's never really recovered. And that was 45 years ago. But she made this movie, the version she wanted, and Corman watched it, and it wasn't violent enough. There wasn't enough sex in it. There wasn't enough deviance. There weren't enough tits and ass. And so he hired another director to go in afterwards and film all these scenes of sex and violence and rape and all this nasty shit. Basically the shit that people want to see. You know, these types of movies, this is what people want to see. They want to see naked women. They want to see sex. They want to see monsters getting it on with the women. Even if it's against the woman's will. I hate to break the news to you, but people like to watch these movies. Not because they get off on it, but because it's interesting if it's done in an artistic way. Even if it's a goofy movie like this, there's still fun to be had if you're willing to not be so uptight about things. It is art, after all. And again, like I said about Galaxy of Terror, one of the things I like about movies like this is you just don't see these anymore. They don't get to be made. They don't even get to be realized. So I like Humanoids from the Deep. I will say that the scenes of like the scenes of the monsters raping the women and the violence and stuff, like it's interesting. It is interesting to a point, but it does feel like it's crowbarred in there. You do get that sense, like there is a story and then there are these other scenes, and it's like, oh, okay. It makes the movie way more intense, which is what, people paid for when they went to the theater to see movies like this. But you do get a kind of a feeling that they were crowbarred in there. But again, that's what people expected with Roger Corman movies. That's what he did. A lot of people did this. You'd kind of make your movie, and then afterwards you'd throw in a bunch of scenes of violence and sex or whatever. I mean, it happened. John Carpenter did that a few times. He did that with Halloween. He did that with The Fog. He basically kind of made a PG rated movie, and then they wanted more violence and more sex and more nastiness, and so they went and filmed that shit later and kind of crammed it in there. And they did that here. This movie, I wanted to bring this up. Something that irritates me about bonus feature. This is loaded with bonus features, by the way. It's got the uncut version. It's got the theatrical version, so you can compare and contrast. It's got some documentaries. It has a new commentary with a film historian. Am I the only one who doesn't give a single shit about these types of commentaries? A film historian? Who cares? Are there people that actually sit down and listen to film historian commentary? Who gives a shit? Guess what? I'm a film historian. Why won't somebody hire me? Like, what does it take? What level do you have to be a film historian and get asked to do a commentary? I don't give a shit what some random Yahoo has to say about a movie. If you're going to have a commentary, you need to have the actors or the director or even the editor or the person who did the score, like somebody who was involved, the gaffer, for God's sakes, anybody who was involved in the production of the movie. I don't give two wild farts what a film historian has to say about humanoids from the deep. I don't care. And quite frankly, it gets boring. People just love to pull apart movies and apply everything that they know about the world and attach it to the movie or the music they're talking about or watching or listening to or whatever. I understand that's what criticism is. I do that to a certain extent too. But with film, like, people dissect film so much, it gets so reductionist that I can't help but fall asleep with boredom. There's always some deeper meaning, and meanwhile you're reading this, I'm like, I don't know where they got this. But you start to realize that a lot of criticism is just based upon that individual's human experience and whatever traumas they have, or good vibes and experience they have, and they attach it to the movie. But the reality is none of that shit has anything to do with the actual movie. You know, that's partly what makes film so great, is that, let me show you the back. That's what makes film so cool, is because you can kind of attach any meaning you want to it. So I get that part, but that's for me to decide. I don't really care what a film historian has decided about this movie. Couldn't care less. I really don't care. And I've listened to a few film historian commentaries, and they're achingly boring. Again, they just want to apply their own intellectual discourse to the movie when in reality it really has nothing to do with what the movie is. Sometimes a movie is just very simply a monster movie. Yeah, it's influenced by the things of its time. Like, this movie came out in 1990s or 1980s, so there are things in the early 80s that affected this movie. The way people saw movies, the way people were experiencing movies, the way they were trained to experience movies. All that shit comes together in a societal way, but then some historians and critics get so fucking reductionist with it that you just get lost. Any meaning or non-meaning in a movie that there was originally just gets whitewashed out, and you don't even know what you're watching anymore. So I try to avoid the film historian commentaries. They are a fucking bore. I don't have any interest. Having this on 4K is enough for the purchase for me. I hope I'm making sense. I don't care what a film historian has to say. Neither should you. Anybody watching this video right now, you are also a film historian. I've put my 10,000 hours in, so I guess that makes me an expert. So shout. Call me up next time you need a commentary. I'll fucking do it. Seriously, I know what I'm talking about. I know my movies. My view is no more or less interesting than whoever this Yahoo is. In fact, that's what you should put on the credits. Commentary by Film Yahoo, because it's pretty much what it is. This is the third movie that I just picked up. This is Panic Room. I haven't even cracked this out of the shrink wrap yet, but here it is in all its glory. Panic Room. I like this movie. It is obviously a David Fincher movie. I'm not an overall fan of everything he does. I know there are Fincher aficionados out there that love everything he does. I'm not one of those guys or girls. I like he has a couple of movies that I really love, and then he's got a couple of movies that I don't like at all. And then he's got a couple of movies that I feel like, yeah, they're okay. I'm kind of on the fence about. This is one of my favorites of his. I think other than Zodiac and maybe The Killer is his most recent movie, so I feel like that's still gestating, but I've seen that a few times and love it. I think past Zodiac and The Killer, Panic Room might be my favorite Fincher movie. And yes, I'm fully aware of his other movies, okay? I'm aware of every movie he's made, and Panic Room, I think, is in his top three, along with The Killer and Zodiac. This is just kind of a dumb movie. The premise is really stupid, but that's what Fincher's really good at. I think he's really good at the window dressing. He can take a very simple story and complicate it with really cool visuals and great performances and really cool music. He knows how to manipulate a camera. He knows how to manipulate an audience. He's a good director, man. He's one of the best. He really is. It's funny with Fincher. Like I get pulled into his movies. I see a movie that he's made, or I see that he's put out a movie. I haven't seen it yet, and I think about it. I'm like, it's Fincher. What am I going to think about this? I kind of have that reaction, and then I sit down and watch the movie, and I find myself getting sucked in. The whole time you're like, this isn't really that complicated of a story. It's kind of dopey. But Fincher's a really, really fucking talented director. He knows how to keep your ass in the seat and keep you watching. He's really, really, really good at the window dressing. He's arguably the best. He's the best at taking a really nothing story and making it really cool. And I think Panic Room is one of the best at that. Again, the premise is really simple. I mean, someone's having their home invaded and they have to survive. But because of the performances and the casting and the direction, it's a really fun movie. By the way, this does have a digital code. The film company itself released this. Haven't cracked it open yet, as I mentioned before. You get a little tin case here. I really enjoy this movie, and I look forward to watching this on 4K. Again, excellent performances. Obviously, you get Jodie Foster. I mean, Jodie Foster is just she's a handful of actors where she kind of elevates whatever she's in. There are very few actors out there that have this ability, and Jodie Foster's one of them. You know, I think people like Robert De Niro are in there, and Denzel Washington, Daniel Day-Lewis, Jodie Foster. You know, there are a handful of actors that it doesn't matter what they're in, but they're always good. It can be a terrible movie, terrible direction, terrible story. But, oh, look, there's Jodie Foster. She's always good. She's got that kind of power. She's been crushing it ever since Taxi Driver. You just can't take your eyes off her. She's got that special magic, that special sauce. And she's great in this movie. And the villains are all great. Again, the window dressing. You know, this is where Fincher's really good. He brings in Forrest Whitaker. When has Forrest Whitaker ever been less than brilliant? How great is this guy? By the way, those of you who have never seen Ghost Dog, what are you doing? If you've never seen Ghost Dog, drop everything, go watch it right this instant. It's a great fucking movie. And Forrest Whitaker is brilliant. Brilliant. Maybe his best performance. But Forrest Whitaker, outstanding actor. Always. He is the ringleader of a group of goons and thugs. The other thugs, Dwight Yoakam. Now, who in the hell would think to cast Dwight Yoakam? He's a good actor. He is a bit of a one-note actor. His only other role I've ever seen was in Sling Blade, which he was amazing in. I mean, he plays a truly scary bastard in Sling Blade, and that's exactly what he plays in this. Dwight Yoakam's a really interesting guy, man. Um, he's, country and western isn't my favorite genre, but I do kind of like his music. I feel like it's authentic and it's honest, and that's all you can ask in an artist. It's not really my thing, but the music I've heard of his is okay. The guy's obviously talented. It's not my cup of tea, but he's good. He's a great actor too. He plays a good psycho. I've never seen him play anything else, so I don't know what his range is, but he's really good in this. He definitely gives you a good sense of foreboding when he acts. He's just kind of a scary dude. Forrest Whitaker's got his hands full trying to control this fucker in this movie. He's just, Dwight Yoakam does a good job. The other creepy psycho is Jared Leto. Jared Leto's performance in this is a little over the top, but that's what he was supposed to do. When I first saw the movie, I thought, Leto's performance is a little over the top, but then you start to understand that that was his direction. That's what Fincher wanted. You look at Jared Leto's other performances, and he's a fucking good actor, man. He's the real deal. He really is. You ever seen Requiem for a Dream? Great movie. Jared Leto is fantastic. You ever seen Dallas Buyers Club? Jared Leto is fantastic. So the guy's a great actor. He doesn't really need to be a great actor here. He's a very one-note kind of reactionary character in this film, but that's what is needed. It's about this movie's about juxtaposition. You got Jodie Foster with her dilemma. You've got Forrest Whitaker with his dilemma. And then you got Dwight Yoakam, who's on one side of the psychopathic scale. And then you got Jared Leto, who's on some other psychopathic spectrum. And so it's about those points of a triangle, and that's what you get with Whitaker. Whitaker's up here, then you get Yoakam and Leto down here, and then you got Jodie Foster in the center. Kristen Stewart's also in this. She's got nothing to do. She just, she was young, and I'm not a huge fan of hers anyway. I think she's a one-note actor. And that's all she's asked to do here. She basically just hyperventilates and turns blue the entire movie. That's all she's asked to do. She's fine. She's for what she's supposed to do and what's expected of her, she does a good job. But this is a fun movie, man. I like it. It's again, Fincher is so good at making movies look interesting. He's unique in that way. Like I'll end up watching a movie like Social Network is a good example. I watched Social Network and it's kind of a dumb movie. I think it's kind of stupid actually, but I like it. When I watch it, I can't take my eyes off it. Fincher's got a very particular style visually where you just you can't take your eyes off the screen. You catch yourself kind of rolling your eyes with some of the performances and some of the writing choices, but you end up not really caring because he puts you in this world that is purely cinematic. And that's fun. Another director who's really good at that is Steven Spielberg, His stories might be stupid, but sometimes you can't help but sit and kind of, watch his movies with your mouth agape, losing yourself. And to me, that's the sign of a director who knows what they're doing. When you're watching a movie and it seems like 5 minutes has gone by, but it's actually been like 45 minutes. Time's going by fast. So that's a sign of a good director, and I think that's what Fincher has. He's got that talent. And Panic Room's a really cool movie. I enjoy this. It's fun. It's one of those really highly stylized, dumb movies. And it's well acted. And Jodie Foster and Forrest Whitaker are really the reasons to watch this film. They're just so fucking good. They're so good. But I'm happy to have this. It comes loaded with special features. David Fincher, he's always pretty open with his movies. He doesn't mind doing commentaries and documentaries. And as I mentioned in a previous video, though, Zodiac is the crown jewel for him, I think. He's never made a better movie. Zodiac's is one of my favorite movies, period. Anyway, I've got some intense movie watching to do. I've got Panic Room. I'm stoked to get into this and dive into this, with the exception of the film historian commentary. And then I'm excited to dive into this. All right, y'all. I'm getting out of here. Have a good day and all that crap. Bye.